Hi, this is Mr. Ng, going over the quiz corrections for Math 4. We're in Chapter 8, quiz number 10, on sections 8.1 and 8.2. This was taken on January 8th, 2016. Show all your work to receive credit. Leave all answers in simplified radical form. For questions numbers 1 to 6, it says state the trig ratios, sine, cosine, or tangent, which they list to. And it says leave as a fraction. So here, these are variables. This one's called theta, and that one's called alpha. You just need to know it's an angle, so you look over here. And for sine, that would be your opposite of this angle, which is 9, over the hypotenuse, which is 41. Cosine, that would be adjacent over the hypotenuse. And tangent would be opposite over the adjacent, 9 over 40. Question number 4. Over here it says start over here is your alpha, so sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, 40 over 41. Cosine of alpha is adjacent, 9 over 41. And tangent is opposite over the adjacent, opposite over the adjacent. Question number 2. The diagram below shows a right triangle UPC. What ratio represents a sine? So if you start at U here, your opposite would be 15, and your hypotenuse, which is across the right angle, would be 17. 15 over 17 would be your answer. Question number 8, in the right triangle below, the length of AB is 13, which is listed, and the length of CB is 12. What is the tangent of angle A? Well, if you go here to angle A, you need the opposite over the adjacent. Oh, that's wrong. So tangent of A, this would over here would be opposite, and this would be the adjacent. Your answer would be 12 over 5. So A is correct. This one's wrong. Now this side isn't listed. So how do you get that side? Well, you have two sides of a right triangle. You can use the Pythagorean Theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. A and B are just the two sides of a triangle. C is the most important letter, is the hypotenuse, which is across the right angle. So mine are mislabeled in terms of opposite and adjacent for this problem. Question number 9. Let's see if I can zoom out. Triangle ABC is a right triangle. So there's no picture. The length of AB is 6, and the length of CB is 3 units. What is the length in units of AC? So what you can do here is draw yourself a picture. All you know it's a right triangle, so I just draw one here. And then it says AB is 6, and then CB is 3. So here, what I did is, again, is the Pythagorean Theorem. And when I do the Pythagorean Theorem here, you get x squared is your hypotenuse, 6 squared is 36, 3 squared is 9. You get x squared equals 45. Take the square root of both sides. The factors of 45 are 9 and 5, and the square root of 9 is 3. 3 radical 5 is one of your answers. You could have chosen D. Or if you drew a right triangle here, and then you labeled this one up here A, and this one down here B, and then you call this one C, so BC would be 3, and then you could still use the Pythagorean Theorem. Hypotenuse is 6, so 6 squared is 36. Square this side, that would be x squared. Square this side would be 9. Subtract 9 from both sides, and you get 27 equals x squared. Take the square root of both sides. Factors of 27 are 9 and 3. Square root of 9 is 3, so 3 radical 3 is another answer. So you could have chosen B or D. Question number 10. From a hot air balloon, the angle between a radio antenna straight below and the base of the library downtown is 57 degrees, as shown below. The distance between the radio antenna and the library is 1.3 miles. How many miles high is the air balloon? So they just want to know this one, which is x. Now, I see that they've already labeled the triangle for me, in the sense they give me an angle, so there's my starting point, and I can just label everything. Opposite, and then adjacent. The hypotenuse we don't need because there's no number here. So tangent of 57 equals the opposite of the adjacent. The opposite side is 1.3 miles, and how high the air balloon is or adjacent, which is x. Here you're solving for a side, so you just cross multiply. You get 1.3 equals x times tangent 57. This is not a calculator-ready equation, which means I have to divide both sides by tangent 57. These will cancel, and you get x is equal to 1.3 over tangent of 57, which is choice C. Again, this side was actually meant to be done without a calculator, or is possible to do without a calculator. Question number 11, when you use the inverse button on your calculator, that would be M to find an angle measure. Question number 12. In the right triangle shown below, the length of AB is 8 units, which is labeled, and angle A measures 60 units, which is labeled. Again, you can tell that this problem is meant to be done without a calculator because it actually gives you these three trig ratios. Approximate how many units long BC to the nearest hundredth of a unit. So here, if you label angle A, I know that they've given me AB and they want me to solve for BC, so that would be opposite of the hypotenuse, which would be sine of 60 equals opposite of the hypotenuse. Your opposite is x and your hypotenuse is 8. Here I can cross multiply. 8 times sine of 60 equals x. There's my calculator ready equation. Then I already have sine of 60, which is up here. You can hand multiply, or I allowed you guys to use your calculators, and you'll get 6.928. This will mimic your test next week, so there will be some questions. One side of the test will be done without a calculator, so you need to prepare for that, just like this side of the quiz. Which equation shows a correct trig ratio for angle A in the triangle below? So it says angle A, so what I did here is I listed out all the trig ratios for angle A. So you have the opposite, and this, because it's going across from angle A, across the right angle is the hypotenuse, and then therefore the third side is always the adjacent, which means it's next to that angle. Then I listed out all my sine, cosine, and tangent. There's so, there's ka, and there's toa. So sine of A is opposite of the hypotenuse, which is 8 over 17. Cosine of A, which is adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is 15 over 17. And tangent of A, which is opposite of the adjacent, which is 8 over 15. You'll notice that I put x's here on the side to show that each of these are wrong. Sine of A is not 15 over 17, it's 8 over 17. Tangent of A is not 8 over 17, it should be 8 over 15. Tangent of A is not 5 over 8, it should be 8 over 15. And cosine of A is the only correct one. It's listed there. Multiple choice questions are worth 2 points. You don't need to show me work, but you shouldn't be guessing. Notice how I have work for my multiple choice. That side was worth 20 points. Question number, backside on number 14. This was an extra credit question. The numbers represent the lengths of the sides of a triangle. Is it a triangle? If so, classify the triangle as acute, right, or obtuse. Made it worth 1 point extra credit. This is information from last semester. If you take the three sides of a triangle, this is called triangle inequality. Determine if it is a triangle. You have to add two sides of the triangle, and their sum should be greater than the third side. Notice how all of these work out. 8 is greater than 5, 9 is greater than 4, 8 is greater than 5, so therefore it is a triangle. Here we use the Pythagorean Theorem converse, c squared, and the box here is to show which inequality. Your c will be the longest value, which is 5, and you get 25 is smaller than 32, therefore it's an acute triangle, not a right. Question number 15, given the angle, find the trig ratio, that's sine, cosine, and tangent, round to the nearest 10,000th, which means that's 4 decimal places, which means you actually need to look to the 5. I listed it to the 5 here. Make sure your calculator is on degree mode, so when you type in sine of 42, you'll get 0.66913, and a bunch of other decimals. So here, the 1 is in the 10,000th place, therefore I look at this number, 3 is 4, 3, 2, or 1, or 0, which means you keep this number the same. That's why it's 0.6691. If you got something close to this, I gave you 1 point instead of the 2 if you were incorrect. Notice here I have 0.08715. This number is 5 or higher, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Therefore, you take this number, you round up. Instead of 1, you write a 2, and there's your answer. Over here, some of you guys got confused with the ones place. That is not a 10,000ths. Remember, that's not in the decimal places. The decimal places are to the right. So look at this fourth number, you need to look at the fifth number, and this number is smaller than 5, therefore this number stays the same. Number 16, given the trig ratio, find the angle measure and round to the nearest whole degree. So whole degree means no decimals. Over here, these students got these ones a lot easier. Recognize that you're solving for the angle. There's no angle measure. You'll know that you don't have an angle measure if you look above. Remember, angles are measured in degrees, and they have that little circle above the number. So here you have to do the converse. I'm sorry, the inverse, not the converse. Inverse. Inverse means you switch it, so you would type in the inverse of cosine of 0.68. In your calculator, you get all of these decimals, and now to show you that I'm rounding to the nearest whole, this number is not 5 or higher, so you keep it. Over here, same thing. This number is higher than 5, so you're going to round up. That'll be 22 degrees. Again, if you were close to that number, I give you 1 point. Now over here, you would have to convert this into a decimal if you were using the table of trig tables, and then you would just do the inverse again. You get this number here. Notice how, remember, if you're rounding to the nearest whole, you just look to the next number to the right. This number is not 5 or higher now. Again, you might think to look over here, but that's if you're rounding to the tenths. Same thing with tangent, do the inverse, and you'll get 66. Question number 17. Sorry, adjusting my window. Question number 17. Solve for x round to the nearest tenth. So they give me 50 degrees. There's my starting point. Circle it. I'm going to label the sides. That's opposite. This is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. From here, I cross off the opposite because there's no variable or letter here, or number. When you have the adjacent over the hypotenuse, that's SOHCA and SOHCATOA, so that means I have cosine. Cosine of 50 degrees, you always write the angle right next to the trig ratio. Adjacent over the hypotenuse. The adjacent is x, and the hypotenuse is 28. Here I'm going to cross multiply. Here are your calculator-ready equations. Notice here, if you just got cosine, this is a free response question, so this is out of 4 points. So what I do is, if you had cosine correct, I give you 2 points, even if you had the ratio wrong, or the substitutions. Now, if you cross multiplied and got one of these in the red box, that means you have a calculator-ready equation. Cosine of 50 times 28. You don't have to really do anything or expand it. And 1 times x. If you type in cosine of 50, you'll get 0.6428. And if you multiply those two numbers, you get 17.99 and a bunch of decimals. This problem does say round to the nearest tenth, which means you're going to have to take this value and look at the hundredths place. This is higher than 5, which means you round this number up. But if you round this number up, it's 9, so that means it becomes a 10. So when it becomes a 10, you just round up to 18, approximately 18.0. All right, let's try the next question. Number 18, solve for x round to the nearest tenth. Same thing. I'm going to circle what they've given me, that angle. That's always my starting point. I recognize from here I can label the sides. I have opposite. Across the right angle is a hypotenuse. Therefore, the one next to the angle is called the adjacent. So if you recognize in labeling, you always have the adjacent on one side, and then you have the hypotenuse on the other side. Cross off the hypotenuse because there's no number there, so you have the opposite and the adjacent, which means you use tangent. Tangent of that angle equals opposite of the adjacent. Then the opposite is 18, and the adjacent is 4. So here, notice how you're solving for a angle, therefore you're going to have to do the inverse. So I give you 2 points if you got tangent. If you took the inverse there, remember when you're switching them, you must do this -1 or the inverse. If you got to this calculator-ready equation here, I gave you guys 3 points. 18 over 4 is 4.5, so those who are not using their calculators have to look for under tangent and look for that decimal where it says 4.5. When I put into my calculator, I got 77.47, and here round to the nearest tenth, so 77.5 degrees. Question number 19. 14-foot ladder makes a 62-degree angle with the ground to the nearest foot. How far up the house does the ladder reach? So here, label your sides. You'll use sine, cross multiply. Here it says to the nearest foot, so that's a whole number. Once you cross multiply, you get approximately 12 feet. That side was worth 22 points. That was extra credit. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Have a great day.